Well, good day and welcome to Sums and Differences of Rational Expressions, Part 1. We're going to spend at least a couple of sessions on this stuff because it's pretty important and it's pretty miserable. This is the tougher stuff. And let me just show you what I'm talking about with something you've seen before. Like, say you want to add some fractions together. There's no quick, easy way. You got to build common denominators. So we would have multiplied this by 3's, the top and bottom, and over here, top and bottom by 2's. So this is hopefully looking familiar to you. Common denominator would be 6, and we built a 6 on both of these. And on top here, I now have 3, and over here, I have 2. So there's my answer, 5/6. Okay, so that's where we're going with this. Now let me start off with a simpler example. And we might have something like this, say 1/2 plus, and now it gets bizarre, 1 over x. You go, oh man, what am I going to do? Well, it's not that different from what we did up here. I have to build a common denominator, right? I got to make these so that these two fractions have identically the same stuff on the bottom. So I go, well, I got a 2 and I got an x. What about, say, 2x? Why don't we just build them up? And that would be correct. So I'm going to take this guy and multiply the top and bottom by x, and this guy top and bottom by 2, thereby building a 2x in both fractions. Now, so the top here is x, and the top over there is 2. Now I can put them together. What do we got? 2x on the bottom and x plus 2 on the top. That is just lovely. Okay, let's move on to one that's a little more involved. So you can clear the screen here. And let's see what we're talking about. What are we up against in this one? We have 3. That's a strange. I'm going to change that one. I'm going to make it 2. Sorry, my notes here had one that looked kind of funny. So how about 2 over 3x squared? And we're going to subtract from that a 1 over 5x. Okay, so here we have subtraction. And again, we have to build these fractions up so that they have the same denominators. So I got to look at this stuff. I got 3, I got 5. So I'm already thinking numerically I'm probably looking at 15 for each of these. And then I see I got x squared here and I got x over here. So I'm kind of stuck with the bigger quantity. So I'm going to make these 15x squareds. And that's our common denominator. So what would I do with this guy? Well, I'd have to multiply the top and bottom by 5. Okay, that's not too bad. That's building up 15x squared, and on the top I'd have 10. Okay, and over here, well, I got to multiply the top and bottom by 3x. Okay, so this would just be 3x times 1, or 3x. So I'm now ready to put it all together as one happy fraction with 15x squared on the bottom and 10 minus 3x on the top. And that's the end of the road for that one. All right, well, it's clipping along pretty good. So I'm going to do one more example here and before we quit. So of course this is going to be the big guy. So we have an x minus 2 on the top over 2x on the bottom. Then we're going to minus x from that. And I'm going to throw another thing at you and go plus, how about a 3x minus 1 all over a 7x squared y. Now, what a mess we got going on here. Okay, so what's our strategy going to be? Well, I better leave a little room here. Our strategy is we're still trying to subtract and add 3 fractions. So I'm going to set myself up here. Okay, so I got 3 fractions. I'm subtracting this one, adding this one, and I need a common denominator. Well, the first thing you might say is, this guy doesn't even look like a fraction, but you know what, we'll just do this. Put it over 1. Now it is a fraction. So what are we going to do? Let's just do it one step at a time. There's a 2, a 1, and a 7. So I think the smallest number I can build up is 14. So all of these are going to have a 14 on the bottom. Then I got an x and an x squared, so I'm kind of stuck with a couple of x's. So x squared is also part of my common denominator. And then I got a y over here, and that's it for y's, but you can't get rid of stuff. You can only build it up. So looks like I'm stuck with a y in the mix as well. So let's just figure out what they look like. So to have built this into this, I guess I'm multiplying by a 7 and an x and a y. Now on the top, I've got to put brackets around this, and we'll just squeeze it in here. I'm going to multiply by 7 and the x and the y. Boy, this is looking very messy here. We'll just move that over there like so. So what do we got going on here? We got 7xy times x. So there would be a 7x squared y. And a 7xy times negative 2. So that's a minus 14xy. It's very squishy. This guy here, I don't even know if I can squeeze it all in, but here's the good news. I'm multiplying the top and bottom by the whole shebang, by 14x squared y. So what am I going to get? I better write it, otherwise it doesn't look quite right. So I'm going to multiply the bottom by that and the top by this. Okay, so it's x times 14x squared y. So that will be 14x cubed y. Finally, I got this guy here. I'll put brackets around it. And what am I going to multiply this stuff by? Well, I'm going to need a 2 to build up a 14. And look, I got everything else. I got x squared and y. So times that by 2. So if I times the 2 into the brackets, I will have 6x's and then a minus 2. Ooh, boy. So now I'm ready to combine them as one gargantuan fraction with 14x squared and a y as a common denominator on the bottom. And look at this, none of these, just none of them go together. So all I can do is list them. So 7x squared y minus 14xy. Then I got minus 14x cubed y. And then finally plus 6x and the minus 2. What a big mess. But it is correct. We've kind of woven our way through it very carefully. And so that is success. So that's where we're going to stop for today. This question has left me exhausted.